Welcome to the Revamp Podcast. Today we have not George Beatty. There you go, I lied.
Yeah, I am George Beatty.
And George is probably one of the biggest wholesalers in the Philadelphia market. Is that a fair statement?
There's a high probability of that.
Fair, all right.
Yeah.
And you've been at it for a long time. I know that, to me, like when I was still doing fix and flips and trying to scale up and everything, it was an inspiration seeing what you did with your wholesale business and everything.
Thank you.
So I'm glad to have you on today, man.
Okay.
Glad to have you on.
Well, shucks, man. I appreciate those kind words, and that makes me feel good and warms my heart.
Yeah, man. So to jump right into it, how did you first start in wholesale? Because I know a lot of your story, but I don't know the beginning. Like, how did you transition into real estate in the first place?
What year did we meet? Do you know? I have no idea.
I don't know.
Okay.
Had to be 10 years ago, right?
Yeah. Probably roughly eight-ish. What did you ask me? How did I get into real estate?
Yeah. How did you start?
I met somebody at a diner who you probably know. With friends. It was a friend of a friend, just like, hey, we were just like chatting. And, when you're with a new group of people and you're like, hey, what do you do for a living? Right. And I asked this person, hey, what do you do for a living? And he said he flipped houses. And I went, oh, I've never met anybody that flipped houses before. What does that mean? And I think I started asking like a bunch of like probably specific questions about stuff. And he was like, look, primarily what I do is something called wholesaling. Okay. I wholesale real estate. Like I flip properties, I do this other stuff, but like wholesaling is like what I do. And like, that's kind of like my thing. And then I went, okay, what in tarnation is,
what does that mean?
What in tarnation is that? Yeah. What's wholesaling? And he told me, and I was like, what? Like, why would somebody sell their house for a third of what it's worth fixed up? He gave me an example of like a property in like Collingdale that like ARV was 150. You buy it for 35, wholesale it to somebody for 50. They put 50 into it and then they make 50. You know what I mean? Like, pretty cut and dry example. And I was like, why would anybody ever do that? And he told me, he was like, well, some people like they're losing their house or the house needs like a ton of work and like nobody else is like, like willing to tell them the truth about the value, or like, they're just like in a sticky situation and like they need help and they need somebody to help them like make a decision. And sometimes they need help with like corresponding issues. Right. So he told me and I was like, okay, yeah. That's all fine. Good. But how do you get them to like agree? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you get them to like say yes to the number? Like I get the circumstances. They're in foreclosure. I've seen the show Hoarders.
Yep.
Right. At the time I was, I'd been sober for like a couple of years, I think, or a few years. Yeah. 3 or something. So like back from my drug days, I remember like trap houses or like people being fucked up. Like, you know what I mean? Like you just get used to like that chaos and being in like shitty houses or whatever. So like in my head, I was like, oh, okay, like a drug house, like a fucked up crib. Like you're going to sell one of those properties. It's like dilapidated. Like, oh, okay, like I get that. But like, why, how do you get somebody to agree to the number? And he kind of like told me a little bit about like sort of this, like, I wouldn't want to necessarily call it a sales process because it really seemed like kind of like they were winging it, but like winging it with like a little bit of a plan that was kind of ripped off from like a car dealership, like really basic.
Got it.
Really basic sales stuff. And I thought to myself, like, wow, I think I would be really good at like the sales part of that. I think I'd be really, really good at it, getting people to sell me their crib. Like, I don't know about this construction phooey. I don't know about this marketing stuff. I don't know about like the real estate side, but the sales side, like I bet I would be excellent at that. At the time I was working for a large company that's headquartered in Delaware County. I think they still are. Selling windows and roofing. Okay. And I learned this like structured selling presentation there where like, you go through like a several step process to get a yes at the end of one call close, like basically get somebody to buy windows from you or a roof, like right there, right? Going from like a free estimate that's good for a year to a signed contract, like in like a couple hours, right? So, and I'd been doing that for a few years and like I was pissed off at my boss or something. I really don't even remember what it was, but like, the right place, right time. Cause I was all about hurt. And like in retrospect, like, it was like really petty and stupid, but like I'm a sales guy. You know what I mean? Like that happens. Like I'm human and I'm a sales guy. That's a sales guy thing to do. Yeah, so when I was having this conversation at the diner, I remember being like, wow, I think I'd be really good at that. And I bet nobody in the world is doing it using a structured sales process like I'm doing to sell windows.
Yep.
And I know how templatable and scalable that is, like that system is. And I was like, I bet I could like fucking, I bet I could go to the moon. Yeah, as the crypto kids say. I bet I could moon that,
there
sir.
You go.
But this is before cryptocurrency. I did have some Bitcoin at the time, but I think I got rug pulled from Mt. Gox or something like that. I can't get my login information. And by the way, they are like returning coins to people now. The Mt. Gox rug pull from like 2014, 2015. So if anybody knows how to get my user info back from there,
I lost some just sending it to a wrong wallet address. So I feel you, but
no, that. Yeah, that's podcast part 2 is the crypto chronicles.
To sidestep real quick though, so when you were doing sales for the window and roofing company and everything, obviously to be this confident in yourself, like kind of as you're internalizing and processing, like, yo, I could crush it in this.
Yeah, I would,
obviously that means you were already doing really well in your sales position with them.
I was an above average rep that had been there for a while, but I would not consider myself a rock star. I was very up and down and streaky. Basically when I was focused on that selling portion, I was like really, really good. But when I wasn't focused, I was not.
Okay.
And I was not focused all the time. Like, that's the truth of the matter. I think that I had an above average dollar per issue, which is like what you call like that. Sales companies that I want to call close have a lot of turnover. I was there for years. So that probably speaks to something. I mean, of the people that were hired in the front door of that place, I was probably in the top 5 or 10%. But in terms of the company, I was probably barely in the top 40%. Right. So like like very, very good world-class selling organization. Like it's not like every other place I had sold for, like, which was like minor league BS for the most part. I was like the top guy at wherever I was at, but it was like selling TVs and nobody trained me on how to do that. Like, you know what I mean?
Again, there was no system. There was no structure.
That was just off the strength, as the kids say. I'm still cool. I swear to God. I'm gonna figure it out. I should have worn the black Air Forces.
As long as you know some slang and like terminology, you're cool.
Yeah, I'll get it. I have a jujitsu friend, Walt, who I ask, hey, what's cool? Like, what can I say? What shoes are cool? And I don't take any of his advice, but I like have a basic awareness of like what's still cool. Shout out to my boy Walt. Anyway. Yeah, so like the sales thing, I the systematic approach to sales, and I was like, I think I'd be really good at that. And then he then asked me what I did for a living, and I told him, and he was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah, because it's the construction component, like being familiar with construction is like a really big deal in real estate, like as you know. So like you can teach people about like the houses and like the financial bullshit, but like the construction side's like, that's like hard, right? Yep. Like you have this secondary skill you need to teach somebody. And then you got to teach them valuations and the sales skills. Like there's a lot there. So, anyway, we were like talking or whatever. And I was like, yo, man, like, let's like have lunch. And he was like, yeah, let's do that. And then at lunch, he was like, yo, let me show you how to like do mail and like do marketing a little bit. And like we, if you want, and like, I'll give you a little, you can go off and figure it out. And then like, if you get a lead, tell me and I'll help you with it. And I was like, no, I don't want anything to do with marketing or mail or data. I don't have any background in that, but I'm really good at like this one thing.
I want to sell, baby.
I'm really good at it. Well, I'm better than anyone you've met at this. At this company, I'm like whatever at it, but like I'm better than anyone you've ever met at it. And I think I could do really good at this. So if you have extra trash leads that you don't want them, you couldn't close them, like literally, like I don't want to take any, like it'll take me some time to learn this on my own. I don't want to like fuck your shit up, whatever. But like if you have some shit like that you don't, just to be clear, that you don't want, send it to me. Show me a book I can read. Send it. Turns out the guy had written a book about wholesaling. Was like, here's my thing. I think he made me give him $100 for it, or who am I giving it? No, I made him give it to me for free. I think I was actually I think I was a real asshole about it, knowing myself, just like a fucking completely arrogant asshole. Which sounds like me. Yeah. So and I was like, give me some leads, and like we'll see. Like if I'm right, then we're both going to make a bunch of money, and if I'm wrong, like I don't want it to like hurt you, right?
Yep.
So then I don't know. A few days went by. He was like, okay, cool. A few days went by. Dude emails me with like this like old lady moving lead in like Hatboro or Hatfield or like somewhere in the suburbs where like now in today's environment, I'd be like, oh shit, we got a lead there. Like, oh my gosh. And like, bro, I was like this close to closing it. I was so close, just winging it, like completely winging it. Like I did a roofing demo. Like I couldn't think of anything to pitch. So I just like pulled out this like example of roofing materials. So like, this is what we're going to do with your roof. And just like tried to pitch her on a new roof just to try to get her emotions up. And she was like, what do you like? It's like, get to the fucking point.
Yeah, this isn't what you're here
it's
for,
like, what are you
dude?
doing? But like, I almost closed that deal. And she called me back like 6 months later. I still almost got it. That's like the one that got away was like my first lead. But so, he and I were on the phone the whole time. So he sends me like 4 more leads and I close, I think all 4 of them, or he sent me 5 more. And I closed like the next 4.
Wow.
Like literally like raw leads, like turned into contracts that we made money on. And like in retrospect, like I know about lead quality now. This was late 2014. So like marketing was different then. There was not a lot of competition for leads. There was just not that many buyers. Like, it's just like a different time, you know what I mean? So like now I know like, oh, like those were all like pretty good leads. Like one was like, I think 2 or 3 of them were probate leads. And then one of them, no, wait, did I close the next 4? I think it was the next 3. I think it was the first 3 out of 4. It was Northeast Philly. That was a deal that actually we did with Josh Hurts. It was the first one I got a check for. One that we sold to fucking Craig. You probably know Craig. They're up the street. And then one we sold to Steve Seymour.
Okay.
Actually, you remember Steve back in the day? Yeah. Well, I mean, not back in the days. Now Steve's killing it. He's great. Great guy. You know Steve?
Yeah.
Steve's a good dude. He's got also a podcast. Yeah, so I just like made all this money all of a sudden. Oh yeah, we sold. That was it. There was another one. We sold it to Andy. I don't know if Andy's still in the game. I haven't seen him in a while. Anyway, I don't like.
Dude, whether it was 3 out of 4, 4 out of 4.
No, yeah.
If it was 1 out of 40, that's still impressive.
Yeah,
so that's
like,
insane.
One of them. Anyway, so like a couple of them were like 30K deals or something like that, or one was 45, one was 30 something. One was like 10 that we split, or 9 that we split like 3 ways. So just some Albanian dudes, which was hilarious because I didn't know what to expect. And then one was like an in-house thing. They just cut me a check for 5 Gs. But that like I was used to a W-2 job and I just like made all this money all of a sudden. And I was like, yo, if I make $60,000, I looked myself in the mirror and I was like, if I make $60,000 in the next 90 days, starting today, I like put it in my calendar or whatever, I'm going to quit my job. I was making like $100,000 a year selling windows, which is a really big deal for me. I don't have a college degree. I, a few years before this, was addicted to heroin and like have a criminal record and like, like thought I was going to be dead by the time I was 25 for good reason because there was like a really high, all my friends from high school are dead. Well, a few of them are still alive. Like 2 of them are still alive, I think. But like it is more likely than not for my close circle of friends to be dead than alive today. And that's been that way for a while. So like, it was like $100,000 for me at the time was like, and this is like what year is this? This is 2014 where like that was still kind of a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it still is, but it's like, the inflation and, it's just a long time ago. You know what I mean? Like things change, right? And yeah, so it was like $60,000 in 3 months. I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go forth into this real estate thing. And I'm never going to look back. And, the dude was generating leads. I was closing them and dealing with all the stuff on the back end. And at first, like he was doing, like he had a huge buyers list. Like he was dealing with talking to the buyers and then so basically like he got the leads. I did most of the stuff afterwards, not all, but like most of, or at least like the laborious things, transaction coordination, following, schmoozing, whatever.
Gotcha.
Problem solving stuff. So 60 Gs, 90 days, and then I made like $61,200. It was like $60,100. I was literally sitting on my calculator. I was like, I have to quit it was literally like right over the line.
I did it.
The exact amount of money was like right over the line. And there was like no way of chopping. It's like, well, I did spend $200 on this one thing. Let me subtract that from my net just to make sure. And it was still like, there was no way I could do this math where it wasn't 60 G's.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a sign from God. So I quit my job selling windows, and, you know,
And the rest is history.
yeah, I mean, I can tell this story, my real estate career story. It'll, you know, take a while, but yeah, that's how I got it. It was like literally from a chance encounter with somebody at a diner, and then being like, I think there's an opportunity here, and then like pitching the guy, and then like kind of like going for it. You know what I mean? And then, you know, a lot has changed for, frankly, the both of us since then. He runs a very, very large, very successful organization. Now, you know, we split a few years ago. Actually, well, more than a few now. 5 years ago, maybe 6, whatever. But yeah, he, you know, it was very mutually beneficial for the both of us at the time.
Cool.
So
Very cool. So up until that point, 5 or 6 years ago, it was like not a official partnership or anything. It was just kind of like, what was that like?
So I don't want to get too far into the structure and the details of that, because, you know, a lot of people know both parties, you know, and I don't want to put someone else's business out there. I don't think that's right. But long story short, the functional relationship of day-to-day stuff was like basically like I had zero responsibility for the generation of leads.
Okay.
And zero responsibility for the maintaining of and dealing with of a buyer's list.
Got it.
Right? Or the pricing of like what to send a deal out for.
Got it.
So basically, I was in charge of everything regarding appointment generation and deal generation outside of the generation of the lead, calling the seller, tracking of it, putting the notes in, sales guy, hiring, firing, dealing with. Although we had, frankly, very atrocious visibility of KPIs back then, which was like a huge issue, which is neither here nor there now, I guess. But and then like deals being written, excuse me, and then like, you know, holding of showings and things like that.
Yep.
And you know, title BS and what title companies send stuff to.
Got it.
Things like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. I like it.
And then I had to learn how to market. Marketing's really hard.
Well, and I have to assume like you also had to figure out all the business systems and everything as well, right? Because it's like
the technology side.
Yeah, because I mean, you had a hell of a like way to wrap your head around it because you were immersed in those systems and everything. But like, you had to build all of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the way it looks now is very different than the way it looked when we split and before that. I mean, we've been through several CRMs. One advantage I think that I've retained since being at that window company, they were very tech focused, very much so.
Real estate investors, if you're looking for your next deal, you need to check out revamp365.ai. Whether you're looking for a deal to flip or to rent or even a deal to wholesale, we got you covered. You know what type of deals that you're looking for, so why are they always so hard to find? Well, to put it simply, traditional real estate marketplace platforms weren't built for you. They were built for homeowners. Revamp 365 was built by investors for investors. Build your buy box and instantly filter entire markets to find the precise properties that you're looking for. You can browse wholesale and MLS deals. You can run comps and access all data even if you're not a licensed agent. If you are a licensed agent, you're going to close more deals because you can set up buy boxes for all of your investor clients. You can upload and sell your off-market deals. And most importantly, you're going to set deal alerts so you never miss a deal that matches your buying criteria. Look, you know that missing one deal in the investment world can cost you tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. But you probably don't have 80 hours a week to invest in underwriting every single deal that comes on the market to be able to see if it's a fit for you. This is your solution. Go to revamp365.ai/podcast today for a special lifetime offer that we're only making available here. Normally, plans are $100 or more per month. And if you ask any of our members that have closed 1, 2, or multiple deals, they'll all tell you the platform paid for itself for 20 years with the first deal that they did. So for a limited time, you can go to that link at revamp365.ai/podcast to get a lifetime offer to access this software, saving you a boatload of money, and even better, giving you opportunity to find your next deal today. But don't wait, we won't keep this available forever. Go check it out, revamp365.ai/podcast.
Their CRM, it was proprietary that they had it built, and it ran everything. Everything was automatic. Everything was API. Everything was this, that, and the other thing. So I always kind of like had that vision
In the back of your mind,
right.
like that's the way to
I was
success.
like this, yeah. It's like this is the level of tracking, reporting, insight, and automation that you can have. Like I don't need I have a lot of VAs that do stuff for us, but like I don't need to manually sit down with a pen and paper and tally the number of appointments one of my sales guys has run and see if they're good at it or not. I can have the system tell me in real time.
Yep.
I can have the system tell me where all my profitable deals come from. I can have the system tell me not to market to pre-foreclosures that have more than $100,000 in debt because they're all dead for debt.
Oh, man.
Right? So like things like that, which like turn out in the long run to be like to give you these little edges.
Yep.
So like a 1% edge compounding over time, by the way, over a 50-year period is the difference between like North Korea and the United States of America. It's a 1% compounding difference annually over that period of time.
It's a good analogy.
Which like, well, they I'm going to nerd out for a second.
Nerd out, man.
According to, I believe, I forget her first name, but last name is Payne from the U.S. War College. I watched a talk that she did, the U.S. Navy College. I think it was the Navy War College, whatever. She gave some talk on like sanctions or something, or that included sanctions following the end of the Korean War. And she pointed out that like a 1% difference in GDP growth, if you subtract 1% of GDP growth from the United States over the last 50 years for each year, it puts us at roughly the same position as like North Korea would be today or something like that.
Wow.
It's like a pretty stark difference, or like per
that's
capita or
significant,
something like
yeah.
that. Yeah, it's just like, oh, like shit, like that's pretty fucking, it's just like, oh, wow, it's just like, so like
'Cause it's
that,
easy
that
to be like
technology
1%
stuff
is totally
over time.
insignificant, but
Yeah,
it's not.
over
Yeah.
time, right? So like, so for instance, like little insights can make a really resounding difference. Like we just doubled in the last like couple of weeks, like literally doubled the effectiveness of some of our marketing campaign. Like literally doubled it. It's our primary source, doubled. Which I was looking for like a 15% bump, and it turned it on the other way, and I was just like, oh shit, this is literally double what it was before. Depending on how you do the math, more than double. It's really astounding.
I love it. And that's why we got you on the show today, George. Give us the gold, man. What?
Yeah, no, I mean, I can tell you what that was. It's like pretty simple from a dialing standpoint, but like, do you want to hear about like dialer metrics?
I would love to. I would love to. We may lose a lot of the listeners here, but I love this stuff, man.
Well, keep the ones that matter.
That's right.
Yeah. So, so like answer rates for outbound dialing or outbound texting are really important. As an example, if you can figure out a way to send blue texts to people, your answer rates to your text messages will be higher. Okay. I'll leave that for you to noodle on and for everybody to noodle on because it's a fucking nightmare. And if you can beat me and figure it out better than me, I'll buy your information. So, all right. So you got dude in the back making calls, right? For every 100 calls you make, whatever, 30 of them will answer, give or take. On a good day, 35 of them will answer. On a bad day, 26 of them will answer. I'm sure, or maybe on a really good day, 40% of them will answer. But I promise you that if you're making enough phone calls, in other words, not just calling hot leads when they come in, like actually following up on people, I guarantee you that your answer rates are somewhere in that range. So if you can consistently keep them in the mid-30s, like that's an advantage, right? And also like from the answers, some percentage of your calls will last more than 35 seconds, 45 seconds, whatever that number is for you. We call it a quality conversation, whatever. So if it's more than a minute long, you had a conversation, right? As an example. All these things are important to track because the more you track the steps, like somebody has to answer first, number one. Then you got to keep them on the phone, and then you have to have a good conversation with them, and then you have to close the conversation in whatever direction you want to go in, right? So let's say that there's like therefore 4 metrics for your call, your phone shit, your answer rate, your quality conversation rate, your what was the thing in the middle? Your fucking calls between this amount of time and that amount of time rate, and then like how do they result the calls more often than not? Do they set appointments? Do they make offers? Or do they say, hey, I'm going to call you back? Like you should be able to figure that out in your system if you're using a dialer. Even a click-to-call dialer should do that. And then, you know, if you can improve, let's say, your answer rate, which is like closer, like to the front of your funnel. If you improve your answer rate, it should improve all those other metrics. You should get more numerically of all those other things. Regardless of whether you're efficient in closing, if you get more people on the phone, you should get more closes, right? It's different ways to manage the numbers. So like hypothetically, if there was a way for you to increase the number of calls you make by 25%, that should increase the number of deals and money you make by 25%.
Yep.
Right. So if there's also a way through technology to make it more likely that those ones, when they answer, will close by another 25%, those compound on top one another.
Makes sense.
It turns into a big deal, right? So like caller IDs, right? So like, we just for context, we do business in Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and Florida.
Got it.
So, and different markets in these different places. So like, it's a lot of different area codes, bro.
It's a lot, yeah.
Right. So, you know, and like even here, as we record this in Delaware County has 2 area codes. You have 484 and you have 610. And then in the area also, you have 215 and 267.
Yep.
Delaware is 302. This South Jersey is like 856, and then it's 609 all of a sudden. And like there might be another one that I'm not mistaken. Oh yeah, there's like 443 or something that's new in Philly.
Still more rare, but
yeah.
yep.
So how many area codes is that? Like I don't know.
10.
Whatever. It's fucking 10. When you make calls from your office, they're probably all 610 numbers or 484 or whatever, which is fine. They're all regionally appropriate. But people from fucking Jersey don't pick up Delco phone numbers.
Yep.
People from Delco don't answer New Jersey numbers. I don't answer anybody.
Yeah.
Or even if they're in my contact sheet, fucking send me a text message. It's 2024.
My man.
But yeah, so like something as simple as ANI grouping, ANI being like your caller ID, right? Or caller ID grouping, CLID, depending on the system you use. Grouping based upon a dialed prefix, which like we use a couple of different phone systems. I don't want to get into the technology side. I can go deep into the tech stack.
I know you can.
I think for most people that would be a waste of time. We spend a lot of money on technology, and I don't recommend that for everybody. For a variety of reasons. Also, fuck Salesforce. Great system, terrible people.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it. Their sales reps
Fighting
are
words.
all fucking liars. My lawyer will be upset if I tell this story. So
Tell it.
I'm not going
Oh.
to. Yeah, I'm genuinely not. It's not good. I really lost my temper. It was a few years ago. It's still.
But you're still on Salesforce, though?
No, yeah, it's a great product. Just terrible people.
Fair enough.
Their sales reps are all just liars. But whatever.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So like we spend. I spend is more accurate. I don't know, $50,000 a year on Salesforce or something like that. And then there's all these other things that plug into Salesforce that are expensive.
Yep.
Spend $8,000 or $9,000 a quarter on one of our phone systems, including support for it. And then another one's like $3,000 a month, $3,500 a month. So, you know, like that shit adds up.
Adds
like,
up quickly,
easily spend
yeah.
$10,000 a month on technology stuff, maybe 15.
Yep.
We just like cut some of the stuff, got some more stuff. I got to like redo the math.
Well, that's the thing, though. When you're trying to stay cutting edge, and you do see that, like these small little improvements can make a massive difference
you know what I
in
like
your deal flow.
more than being cutting edge is making money.
Right.
But, you know,
Right.
it's very expensive to be cutting edge. I want to be the second mover on everything. I don't want to be the first. Second
like
mover
that.
is great. Yeah. So anyway, the dialing stuff, caller ID, whatever. So like, if you can group your caller IDs and have it vary by area code that you're dialing, that allowed us to make more calls somehow. Weird technology bullshit, but it increased our answer rate pretty significantly. In some cases, in some area codes, by 40%.
Wow. Holy crap.
Which also, so like when we ran the numbers after a little while, it roughly, if it more than doubled the number of like basically lead indicator KPIs that we have. Yeah, it's like really meaningful difference. So that got polished up and like optimized. So we were doing it before, but like at a lower level, we like got really serious about it. And it, last few weeks has been like really impactful. Right.
That's
so
awesome.
like as an example, like tracking and technology lets you see that so that it's not anecdotal evidence. Because anecdotally, if I'm just asking my staff, they're just going to be like, yeah, it sucks. Yeah, no one's answering the phone. Or yeah, it's great. And like
Leads
there's no
always suck,
variance
right?
from that. But like the numbers tell the story. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the numbers. Like the difference of one call per 30 seconds versus 45 seconds is like 15 seconds, which doesn't feel like a lot, but it's 50% more calls.
That's huge.
It's gigantic, right? It's the difference between having to hire more staff and keeping your rock stars busy making more money, right?
I love it.
So, like those things make meaningful differences in your employees' lives too, especially if they're commission based. Like you kind of like owe it to them to do a good job.
Totally
At
agree.
least try, but yeah. How did we get onto the data thing? Oh yeah, it was like, yeah, this happened today in data.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's one example of like paying attention to your numbers can really make a big impact for you.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And over the years, I'm sure the numbers that you were looking at 5 years ago are different than the numbers that you're looking at now to a degree, right?
Yeah. Everything's different than 5. I mean, 5 years ago was like nothing. We were on Podio, and the first time I counted how many calls I only had one appointment setter at the time. The first time I counted how many calls she made in a day, it was like 50, or it was like 40 or 50, and I was furious. I was so upset. Like I did the math. I was just like, oh, you're on the phone for about an hour, and you made like 40 or 50 calls. Like I've been working all day. I'm like, I can do that in 90 minutes.
Yep.
What the fuck? And that was like the beginning of turning everybody over. It was like this. It's like once it gets out of hand, and then you try to manage like something that's already gotten out of hand, it's really hard. It's really hard to turn the people around. It's doable depending on the person, the communication tactic, and like, the course of action that you take. But like, if it's been going on for too long, like if you have a negative behavioral pattern or like a substandard like a low standard,
Especially if it's a cultural thing, right?
yeah,
And
it's
there's a lot of
really,
people.
really hard to fix that. Like if you have like, for example, a sales manager that like doesn't provide your sales team accountability, and they're only nice to them, they only like pat them on the, oh my God, like you're so good, like, let me rub your back, like, and like you never are like, hey man, like do your fucking job. And you don't necessarily need to speak to people like aggressively in that tone, but like to some level of like, hey man,
Accountability.
this is your expectation and you straight up didn't do it. Like what's going on?
Yep.
Like if you can't do both of those things, like it, sometimes it's honey, sometimes it's stick. I'd love to, and frankly for myself, like it's like as a sales, I consider myself to be a salesperson by trade, right? Like as a sales guy, like if you're only nice to me all the time, I'm going to think that we're friends. And then if you try to hold me accountable, like I'm going to get upset.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? So like if you're not holding them accountable to some degree the whole time, maintaining boundaries, like you're going to have an issue, and it's hard to come back from that.
It is.
If you get contempt, or somebody gets resentful, it's like, man, I used to be fine doing this and now they're making me do that. That's really hard to come back from. Like, don't let it happen in the first place. It's just like in like a romantic relationship, right? If you get contempt, like you get a problem, right? It's like, don't, you deal with your issues early and often. Here's George, the marriage counselor. I'm not a marriage counselor. That's not my job.
So how has it been for you, like, since you do view yourself as a skilled salesperson, did that make it easier or more challenging to groom other salespeople and a sales team and put sales managers in place? Do you think that was more of an advantage or a disadvantage?
Well, I'm back managing the sales team again now.
Okay.
So bad, therefore. If I was really good at that, then someone else would be doing it. That's a really interesting question. I think it makes me worse at it. And the reason, and it makes me need to be much more self-aware of it. So there's this saying that I know that I didn't invent, but I also don't know the real saying. So I'm going to butcher this.
Butcher it.
when you ask somebody for advice, make sure it's not Michael Jordan, right? Make sure that it's like Allen Iverson or Steph Curry, right? LeBron's probably not the best guy to get basketball advice from. Look how bad of a coach Michael Jordan was, right? I'm not a big basketball fan, but I understand he was not the best coach.
Fair.
Wayne Gretzky was not the best hockey coach. At some point, some people possess such a degree of unconscious ability. What is it? Unconscious skill. There's some word for that, whatever. That they can't explain why they're good, and it's hard for them to boil it down and teach it to people that are not as blessed either genetically or through life experience.
So are you Michael Jordan?
No, but I do. What I've learned is I do possess some level of innate understanding.
I understand.
For
It's
like
inexplainable.
just,
for
yeah,
you.
just like where I stand in a conversation, just like where the little metrics are, where the little pieces are.
Yep.
I can just feel it.
I get
right?
it.
And I can't explain to somebody else how to just feel it. I have to listen to calls with them and notice, like, do you see this tone of voice? If they were going to do X, Y, Z, they would have done A, B, C.
Yep.
But it's that granular how I explain it. So like it's helpful for me to do that with people, but it's just like really hard.
Yeah.
Like
because it makes it almost
It's
not
so-
scalable because it's like it's something
Right, so they have to
you're
have that, right?
unique. Yeah.
Right. So like I also do jujitsu, right? And I'm terrible at it. I'm not athletic. I know I look real strong. I'm really not that athletic. And it's very hard for me to do jujitsu well with anything that looks like athleticism, quick movement, like moving with the left side of my body at the same time as the right side of my body, my upper body with my lower body. It's really hard for me. I need somebody to explain it to me like a lot. And some people just walk in there and they're just really good at it from day one. That's how selling can be sometimes, right? So for instance, for me to get my blue belt, which is like the second stage after white belt in jiu-jitsu, it's, the first like promotion you can get. It was really hard for me and I had to work for like years to get it. I don't even think I really deserve it now. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for fucking 10 years, still a blue belt, right? I don't go to class enough and like, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, there's some people that just show up and they're really good at it and you can progress faster. And they just have some God-given talent. They're just good at it.
Yep.
They can understand where they are in a wrestling situation better than somebody else, better than the average person.
Yep.
Same thing in baseball, same thing with basketball. They're just fucking talented, right? There's just something genetically or environmentally there that makes them good at it. And for other people that have that, they can coach each other, but it's really hard for me to get coached by, for instance, people that are excellent at jujitsu and were always excellent because they just like, they don't get how dumb I am they don't get how dumb I am.
I
at
totally
jiu-jitsu.
understand.
Like, you know what I mean? So sometimes when I'm like coaching salespeople, I'm like, hey, did you notice here where they started to get upset and you got aggressive with them instead of calming them down? And they're like, well, they were fucking wrong, dude. Like, what was I supposed to do? I wasn't going to let this lady fucking punk me. I'm like, bro, like, just like, okay. Like, I don't know. Like, can I really teach? Can I fix, like, is that fixable?
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? So I think that in some regard it hurts, but like, I work really hard at trying to figure out how and why I can do things and just understand them. And like, I continue to get better at training. And like communicating with like my staff and just like remembering not everybody can do it like I can, like right off the bat. Like when I was a kid, just like, I used to be a drug addict. So like I just constantly like needed money and I constantly needed to talk my way into getting money or I needed to talk my way out of like getting arrested or being in violent confrontations and like talking my way out of it, which like I got really good at talking my way out of all kinds of shit. Right. So like that talent like ended up being good at sales, right? Yeah. But I can't just, give everybody a drug addiction before I hire them, but does that answer your question?
No, yeah, it totally answers my question. And that's why I think it's such an interesting thing. So like for me, one of the things that I still struggle with is like on the construction side, you know, it's like the only times that I was ever able to do well profitably on fix and flips is when I am on site. Not necessarily when I'm doing all the work,
you have
but
to
when I
manage
am
it.
physically there on
'cause otherwise
site.
they're gonna try to fuck
And
you.
I've seen so many other people that are like, no, I haven't been to any of my flips, and we run a tight ship and we're profitable and all this. And it's like, it's frustrating as shit to me because it's like, I have the knowledge and skill and I can't do that. So it's like, what at the beginning was a strength for me and a superpower that made me profitable also kind of seemingly held me back in some way, shape, or form.
Can I have a potential point of insight there.
Yes.
All those people are lying.
Well, there's definitely
Hear me out on this. All of those people, they are not the ones who go to their flips. Someone fucking does.
for sure.
Someone that they trust is good at it and who has their back. What I would